Okay guys, so I'm waiting on parts from Sal's capacitors for my 42340 Philco radio. So I decided I was going to do an epilogue to the multifunction panel. I got my little voltmeter in today, which I'm going to mount up here, and I'll hook that up to the variable AC. And I also got my signal chaser that I showed you guys fixed. So I'm going to put you on a tripod and show you the signal out of this thing. Okay, so what was wrong with the signal chaser, one might ask. This was the signal chaser, right? I showed you all that in the previous video. Well, what was wrong with the signal chaser was that 1/4 inch microphone jack that I had in there just was not cutting it. So I took that out, I put a BNC connector in there, and my probe, I redid my probe, and I got it on this nice coax, mini coax cable. So I'm getting ready to hook it up. I'm going to go ahead and flip it on and let the tube be warming up while I get this thing re-aimed at the scope. Okay, so I've got this camera focused at that scope, and I'm hoping that you guys will be able to see this, because I tried to zoom in a little bit more and it starts trying to focus itself. So I've had the signal chaser on for about 2 minutes so that it has had time to warm up, and I got the meter going on. Now I've got enough of my probe lead covered up that I can't clamp onto it. So I got to hold this. So I'm going to try and hold it and then try and adjust the scope for you so you guys can see the noisy pattern that this thing makes. I'm getting ready to connect it here. Alright, we're connected. Now I just got to get my hand where I can adjust the scope. Well, I just lost it. Alright, now let me see if I can adjust the scope up a little bit. Let's see. You can see the noisy pattern on the inversion of it. Let's see here. Get it down where you guys can see that a little bit better. Hand's not holding this thing worth a crap. Anyway, there's our noise form right there coming across, and versus just the normal, you know, waveform that we would expect to see for 60 Hertz. So that's the noise that this thing's creating, the signal chaser. There we go. That's a little bit better there. My finger, I got it, managed to get it holding on there now. My finger was inducing some noise on there, but that's a good indication of what this thing creates as far as the noise. If you go to Iain's website, he explains this a lot better than I can explain it. But anyway, that's that. So let me show you what I've done since fixing that. Okay, so what I did was I decided that this signal chaser was too nice to hide away inside of my MFP. So I decided to build a new signal chaser. The other one's going to remain the standalone that I can have down in your shop. This one's going to get incorporated into the MFP. This is an all metal box. Just like I had to line the other one in metal, this is an all metal box to start with. It's actually a index card holder. If I can pick this up where you guys can see it, I've got it all wired. Everything's wired in there. Got a different transformer than what I used over there. Got another 12AT7 in there. And I've got a BNC on the back. I've got a 90-degree BNC on the back because it's not hooked up yet, but it's going to come around and hook up to the BNC jack that's already in the front of the MFP. What I'm getting ready to do is hook this one up to some power, and I'll show you what this one looks like on the scope. So let me get that set up. Okay, so right now I've got the new signal chaser hooked up to it, which I'm powering off of my Variac, since obviously it's not wired into anything. It has power wire and neutral wire coming out the side. I don't know if I probably didn't show you guys that earlier. We're hooked up right now. Now, the one noticeable difference I see in this particular waveform versus the other waveform is it's definitely, it's got our noise. This one doesn't seem quite as noisy as the other one because it has 3 of the noise patterns versus the other one that had 4 of the noise patterns. But it's there and it's making noise. If I move this around some where you guys can see it, there's the noise pattern right there. Should be working the way it's supposed to work. But anyway, I want to show you guys that and thought you'd appreciate that. So now all I got to do is get it mounted and hooked up inside of the MFP. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the voltmeter and I'll bring you back. So one of the things I did do was I went ahead and I wrapped some aluminum tape around the top to seal this up really well, because since it was an index card box, you know, it didn't seal real good around the top, and the idea is you want to keep as much noise within the box as possible so that it all goes out the jack. So that's what I did, and here is the cord I was telling you I had hooked up to my Variac. Now I got to pull this out and put it in, and again I'm going to use this 90-degree piece. And just so you guys know what I did, I bought one of these cables. I bought the 90-degree cables, 90 on one side and straight on the other. I bought it as a 6-foot cable because I knew that I was going to be wiring directly to the signal chaser BNC over here. And so I cut it off, left myself about a 4-foot lead for the probe that I can switch between the MFP or my individual standalone. So now all I got to do is just run it in there and stick this cord out the front and solder it all up and we'll be good to go. So let me get that done and I'll bring it back. Okay, so there it is. I got it in there. It fit within the confines of the actual tester, so it still can go against the back wall fine. So it's in there now and everything's good to go. That should be it, other than the voltmeter on the front, which I do have installed. And let me get this thing turned around and I'll show you. Alright, so we're looking at the front of the MFP, and I'm going to demonstrate the little voltmeter that I stuck on there. And before I do that, I wanted to say something. So have any of you guys ever done something and then after you did it you're like, well, that was pretty freaking stupid, I can't believe I did that? Well, I did that. I mounted that there because it's really the only place I could mount it. I probably should have brought it down a little bit, but I didn't want it so close. Could have went higher, I guess. It's probably what I should have done. But my little lever for my component tester now doesn't close and lock because it's hitting that. So now I created more work for myself. So now I got to do something with this, which I think I'm going to probably notch it and bend it over and lengthen it slightly so that it's more of a right angle and we'll close past that. But it's like, you know, one step forward, two steps back. But anyway, I'll get that figured out. So the main thing I want to show you is the little meter. Now when I bought this little meter, it's cheap Chinese meter, $6.99. But it was advertised to be 12 volts to 500 volts AC. Well, when I got it and I opened the package and looked at it, it was marked right on it 60 volts to 500 volts AC. And in all actuality, it starts coming on at about 40 volts dimly, and it's bright by 60 volts. So between 0 and 40 volts, I'll just be looking at my little meter on the side here until it lights up. But anyway, I figured I would show you where we're at right at the moment. So I'm on AC with my switch, and if I start turning the variac, it'll start coming on. Right there, I went a little fast, but it starts coming on about, there's 27, 30, 32, 34, 40, 57, 59, as you guys can see as I keep going around, until it winds up at my top voltage, which is about 129 on my circuit right now. So it works, and it works good, which is fine. That is basically the variac AC voltage. So when I'm plugged in with the component into my tester there, it's all going through the electronic circuit breaker, I'll know what my voltage is, and I will know here what my current is. And the other thing I'll show you is, now that I've got the signal chaser installed, we have a blue indicator light there now, and if I flip the switch on for that, you should see the light came on for it, and now I've got the signal chaser all hooked up. And I think what I'll do is go ahead and put my probe on the end of it and hook it up to the scope and make sure it's still working after I did all the manipulation in the MFP. So let me get that set up and I'll bring you back. Okay, so I've got it back on. I got the probe lead all hooked up, and if we look up at the trace, and I zoom in some so you guys can see it hopefully, and I lower it down some, and you guys can see it's on there, and it's noisy. So it's got our noisy signal for our signal chaser. I don't have a operational radio or a not operational radio in the state right now that I can hook this up and show you, but when we get that 41 340 together, we'll demonstrate some of this stuff, and I'll use some of this when I'm working on that radio. So I think I'm going to switch the switch on and off so you guys can see, and I am getting a fourth pattern on there occasionally. It's jumping in and off, but anyway, I'm going to switch this switch on and off so you guys can see the difference with the signal chaser turned off versus on. There's off, on, off, on, off, on. So it's doing what it should do. Anyhow, I think we'll end this for the epilogue. You have to take my word that I'm going to fix my component tester little lever. I'll show you that in a later video, but for now, the MFP is complete. Thanks for watching Gregg's Vintage Workshop.